When I think of you and I hear music by you, I imagine you're, as a fan, it's just like we're projecting what we imagine back onto you. You strike me as like a jam session guy. It's like if you didn't have to limit it for radio play or what to fit on an album, it would be like 17 minutes, that's good. You guys figure out the edit. Whatever you present, that was where you were at the time. And was that how it was when you were a kid, a teenager, you're learning music? You strike me as music is music. I think a couple of interviews you were like, genres are so limiting, labels, it's just music. You might know it as jazz or Hawaiian or pop.
You're right on target.
Yeah.
You're right on target. You know, I come from the backyard too. I come from the street corner.
Oh, yeah.
You know, where you know the beat and the groove is in the environment. Like sometimes, for example, when I do a performance, sometimes we do Horse with No Name, and we'll go like 20 minutes. You know what I mean? So there's that part of the Grateful Dead kind of thing, you know, where it's spontaneous and random. And that's the cool thing about this new group that I'm with too. Like all the guys are like longtime music creators, and they're not afraid to go beyond the reef. And that's the kind of group I wanted to. So, you know, we'll take a song like Big Ship.
Yes.
Yeah. And okay, we see you at the end.
Right.
And it may end up being like 10 or 12 minutes.
That's very, like some people, they call it the jam session, like The Dead, Fish, other groups like that. And also jazz. It's like I was just listening on shuffle. I don't know how it happened. John Coltrane's A Love Supreme. And so acknowledgement, I'm just like, man, but
That's
because
deep, man.
but
I
it's
love Supreme.
But for me, it's just like after I hear acknowledgement, I can't get to the other 3 chapters because I'm like, I'm done. That's a lot to
I
process.
was a big in college. I was a big John Coltrane and Miles Davis fan as well. Too, Bitches Brew and everything. So they have those long, extended kinds of play where everybody takes off and you know. So I've always had that kind of band where if you cannot improvise, you know, or randomly move within the framework of the song, then maybe I got to get somebody else, you know.
So that got me to thinking about when you first started music, small kid time, guitar. Was it a guitar?
Actually, it was a harmonica.
A harmonica.
Harmonica first. So you kind of know all the notes, like just like the keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was like feeling the keyboard in my mouth.
Oh.
Right? And then, of course, eventually transferred to the piano because that's the ultimate octaves, right? And then transferred to the guitar. You know, so although I don't really like play piano, I can write off of a piano, you know, because I know the construction of music.
Yeah.
Like that too, so.
Was it always by ear, or did you eventually? At what point did you learn that these sounds were notes? You know, the letters of the alphabet for music.
I had to. It's like golfing. At some point, you got to commit.
After 2.5 years, I stopped.
Yeah, right,
I'm just like I love it, but
or commit, right?
Yeah.
Like stop borrowing somebody else's clubs. So there came a certain point where I was just immersed in music, but I didn't know enough intellectually, right? So I had to add that to the quiver too.
Oh, that
So I
chicken skin. Yeah.
So I did go to UH for 2 years. I was getting bored already. Prior to that, I had private lessons. I had a wonderful teacher, and every once in a while I mention his name, Michael Overly. He now is in Ohio, and he writes all these books on all these like really heavy, high theory kind of things, but he was just wonderful because he, for like a Hawaiian mind like me back in the day from the streets, he simplified it so I could understand it. Yeah, and so I just needed to understand a little bit more of the rudiments, you know, chord structure, cycle of fifths and all that. And what that did was just open up the doors to my imagination of songwriting. I had to know what the notes were, at least too, yeah. But growing up playing by ear was really, really important to develop that ear, which is, and I was fortunate to have mentors like like Gabby Painui and the Painui brothers. You know, these guys, or even like Ledward, they don't read notes and everything. Everything is just press.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is you're a champion of learn the fundamentals, have fun, but when you reach a plateau, like recognize asking for assistance. Like there's always more beyond the reef, as you said.
Yes. Well, I mean, like if you look at, you know, I'm going on like 50 years of playing music. When I first started, I would never think that I'd be like, you know, my drummer now would be David Garibaldi from Tower of Power, right? And, you know, Lifetime Achievement Grammy Award winners, you know, Michael Ruff from that level, right? I would never think, because I never did make the total commitment then, right? We were just jamming. As it grew, like you said, you just, as you kept elevating, I had to be able to communicate, right? The language, right? And you know, and then you get to a point where you're working with these like stellar musicians. Even this last 2 years of me recording stuff, like some of the musicians are so global and they play with so many artists and stuff. You know, if you can't communicate to them what you're trying to convey musically, like night and day, right? So at some point I had to like be able to communicate with them too. So that's the part where you know, where you do your dirt time, or you pay your dues is what they say, you know. And again, I was really lucky to, you know, to play the nightclubs, the smoke-filled rooms, and then at the same time still go to school and learn a little bit of this and that, and not lose both of them, you know, because that's the balance.
Brother Noland, do you understand how much of an influence your place in music, not just in Hawaii, but around the world? There are people who will cite albums and music and maybe even band lineups. Do you understand your impact?
Yeah, I do now. I do now in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the very beginnings, you're just
Having fun.
making music and having fun and everything. I mean, sometimes now I have a lot of time where I live on the Big Island, like a lot of like spatial time. And if I listen to old stuff because I got to rejuvenate what I'm going to do, I'm thinking like, you know, wow.
Like you did that.
Yeah, I did that. You know, I did that. And, you know, and then I kind of reflect back to where I wasn't. It's almost like subconscious, you know. Yet the words, the lyrics, the music is conscious. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about it from that perspective, but now I do. You know, and now I know that it did count, you know, and it did make sense, and now I know it making an impact even today, you know. I'm a big supporter of the Songwriter Festival every year with Charles Broughton and guys too, and that's what I tell my students in the workshop. You know, what differentiates you from anybody else, you know. I would rather have you be original and authentic. You know, all these little things where when you're younger, and I did the same thing, right? You have to be inspired by somebody, then you start copying them, right? Instead of being you. We should be inspired to that. And again, I didn't know. It just kind of went that path. Yeah, can I tell you a real quick story? But it really changed part of my way of thinking and looking at things. I was the opening act for Kalapana way back in the 80s and 70s. And, you know, they were already like at this peak, this level. And we were just being ourselves. But after a while, they had to start practicing because we were like
that, you know,
level.
So we need to earn it.
Not wanting to steal the show, but we felt we still had something to prove. Yeah. And I remember driving back, and I kind of had like a froggy voice already. It was like maybe about halfway through the tour, and I was riding. Mackie Fury was driving. You know, I always was inspired by Mac, and we were driving, and I was just sitting with him. So I started asking him some questions, about music, because you know.
In the 1970s and the 1980s, you're okay. Yeah. Just for
I'm
context.
the young guy, you know, and I'm here with Mackie, and Mackie's like full on. I mean, it's starting to be Mackie Fury and Kalapana instead of just. So I'm asking him some really critical questions about how do you handle this, because people are starting to, Brother Noland and you know, and then I asked him, how do you maintain your voice? because mine was like going already.
Oh,
because
physically.
Yeah, physically.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I said, do you use some, like Stevie Wonder used cayenne pepper and lemon and stuff like that. And he paused for a moment, and then he looked at me and he told me, I haven't sung a good note since 1969. And I just like, whoa. And he said, I just sing. Yeah. And then he said, and when I can't sing anymore, I stop. Wow. And then it was so profound. Yeah, because it used to be mentally, I used to like think that, oh no, how am I going to go perform and everything? Yeah. And after he told me that was it. I didn't even use any other thing. And what happened, what I realized afterwards is that's why Mackie Fury sounds like Mackie Fury. There's nobody that will ever sound like him. They can kind of duplicate him because he said something simple like, I just sing. So it's like his soul comes out. So I just started singing too, but singing with conviction, and it has never bothered me. Like the way it comes out is the way it comes out. It was so funny that he said that because you think sometimes, whoa. And so that's why I tell people, I'm not like the lead vocalist guy. That's Luther Vandross or Josh Totovi. I growl with conviction, which is totally, totally different, I'm a horn, but I'm not silky and smooth. My horn comes from my soul. That's a great lesson that I always tell young artists. And I always use Mackie as that example too, The work that he left, his legacy is, listen to old Mackie Fury stuff and you just say, whoa, nobody sounds like him. That's an important part in the development of artists and music, and if you're a songwriter and stuff too, sounding like yourself.
Brother Noland, when did you discover your voice or your instrumentation, just everything? Brother Noland, I only know you as Brother Noland, Was it always Brother Noland? Did you go by Noland C and the boys,
No, it was always Brother Noland, but it was always Brother Noland because in Hawaiian families, I'm like the second to the oldest. They just called me brother.
Oh, okay.
Right, from Tutu to my mom, the brother. I was always brother. They didn't even call me Noland. Right? Oh. It's like, brother, okay, till today. Right? Brother. I wanted to stretch it a little bit farther. Like, if you say brother to somebody in Arkansas, they might not get it. Right? Or Wisconsin. Right? So, what if I put brother? Right? And then for a while, her brother like, are you like in some kind of religion? Or
are you a Benedictine monk?
Right. And I said, possibly. Yeah. Because music is a universal language, right?
Yes.
Right. I'm singing Psalms and Proverbs, right? But yeah, and then it just kind of took over and then it just became natural. I remember years ago I opened up for Stanley Jordan. So I go out there and do my stuff and I go and I say, how many of you know Coconut Girl? And this small bunch of people, I was screaming, everybody else was on mute. Anyway, I got everybody singing hi, hello. Then afterwards we went to sign autographs outside. And then the people are coming out through the lobby. And they go, where's that brother? Where's that brother? And I think, hey, that, it sticks with people too. So that's about it. But I grew up always known as brother.
Oh, that's
all my
so cool.
sisters and everybody called me brother, except my grandkids.
They don't call you grandpa brother.
They call me Tutu.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because of your love of music, did you understand the genre labels to you then and now? Were they limiting or liberating? Understanding that outside, people needed to have something as a kind of GPS point, like, it sounds like this and this.
It's liberating.
Was it always liberating, though?
Yeah, pretty much. Because, the way I grew up in the projects, like that too.
I drove down Pua Lane.
It was like the River of Hope. It's right between all the different housings.
Yeah.
And then the sanctuary was Palama Settlement, right? And so, I was really like rascal, right? Heading to juvie and everything. That's when my mom sent me to the Big Island, right? And I was with the Hanai family and all that. But such a influence growing up in the streets, doing all the rascal things. Yeah. and music liberated me. You know, once all the guys on the corner knew that, oh, like, you know, I represented them, like, you know, like I was like, you know, so Pool Lane really is an anthem for a lot of my friends that are in prisons too. You know, and I still get some once in a while. I'll have somebody say, or somebody will make contact, or I'll see somebody and they say, oh, you know, I'm the ex-wife of da da da. He's locked up, but you know, we send him his book, we send him your book, we send him your CDs and everything too. And you know, I think that I represented that part. So at the same time, I was liberating myself. Yeah, I was liberating a lot of the people that was my brotherhood or family. Yeah, the streets.
Did you understand back then that this creative expression was a way of working out things that you didn't have the vocabulary yet of? It wasn't like, why me? It was like, oh, this song, I'm going to figure it out. You know, you were able to channel it that way, maybe?
A kind of combination of both. I kind of think that I was looking at everything like peripheral, and then I was kind of documenting stuff too. And then, you know, once I figured out a couple of chords, it just kind of came naturally to you know, to compose, because that's what I was feeling inside. Yeah, and then, you know, I had all my friends that you know, I played sports with and hung out with and did drugs with, right? And they were like just like, yeah, because I was almost saying what they wanted to say, but they didn't know how to say it, right? And so I was saying it in a song, yeah, and they were like, you know, I mean, that's why I truly believe that it's such a universal language, you know, the I call it the melodic language. Yeah, if you can't convince somebody about something, if you sing it to them, you poetically say it to them, they get it somehow. Yeah, you know. So when I was playing those certain songs, and they would say, "Wow, you made that song up." Yeah, I don't even know what chords I'm playing, right? But you know, so all that was liberating too, right? And yet there is still that point, yeah, where like I gotta know what I'm doing, yeah, in order for it to make even more sense, yeah, like musically too. Like growing up on the street, that part really liberated me because, you know, I was heading down this way instead of that way, yeah. And I saw it in my friends too. I saw it in my friends, like I started to see that, like, I'm like hope. I'm a little hope for them, you know. I mean, again, you know, I had friends like robbing banks, and then they would come and hang out on the corner, listen to me play music, knowing that at some point they, you know, they're gonna be arrested and end up in jail. You know, it's like, whoa. And not everybody has that kind of life, you know, or had to experience that kind of life too. Even when I was growing up as a kid too, and having to go home. My mom was a single parent raising a couple of kids, you know, and she couldn't do it all by herself. And this is like, you know, 60s and 70s. It was something unheard of divorce, you know, and that, you know, but that's how it was in those days growing up in housing. Yeah. I wasn't the only one. Everybody on the basketball team or, football team were in the same position. Yeah. So that kind of led to the whole idea of music liberating me. So that's what I would say.
What was the first song you remember that you heard and you're like, I want to figure that out?
Yeah, so one of the first songs I totally figured out was Stairway to Heaven.
Oh, Led Zeppelin, a classic.
And also Chico and the Man by Jose Feliciano, soundtrack. And again, I don't even know what chords I'm playing yet. Hearing it with the record, going back and forth and playing it. And so that's why when I would go down to the street or a gathering and play it, people were like, whoa, like who plays Chico and the Man, right? You know, wow, you can play Stairway to Heaven, right? And then another song, and that's like most people don't know that song Waikiki. Look what they've done. Like that was one of my first songs. That was like 8th grade, right? And that's from Endless Summer. You remember that movie, the first surf film?
Okay.
It's called Endless Summer. There's that posters.
Oh, the documentary where they're following the surfers around
the one of the first surf films. Yeah, and there's the soundtrack on there, and they use this 2-chord thing. You go do 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 do, right? Do do. And so I learned that 2 chords. It was a D and a C this whole time, and then that's how I put together the Waikiki song. Yeah, which ended up becoming a classic, right? And a couple of years ago it was licensed on a movie called Waikiki. And so when we went to watch the movie, the premiere of the movie, and they played the Waikiki, I was just thinking, like, oh my goodness.
That full circle.
Full circle. Like, I was thinking, wow.
That's the one directed by Chris Kahunahana.
He told me, like, I had to have that song on the project because it was just something that I always resonated with and grew up with, and it fit the movie. Yeah, it fit the movie. And I said, yeah. But I was thinking like full circle because I was just playing the Endless Summer thing and then came up with that chording like that. But those are a couple of the first songs that I really wanted to learn, and learn them good, And again, not really knowing that I had to like know the chords and the music, It inspired me to want to know more. Yeah. So by the time I got to like college and was doing listening to Miles Davis and everything, that's like out of this world. It's like I'm on acid or something, but just musically, I'm like I'm hallucinating inside the music, because this type of music like Love Supreme, it's like, whoa,
so many layers.
I know.
Well, even with your music, there's so many layers. It's like,
see, but now you know.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I was impacted by all that stuff, dude.
That's wild. Brother Noland, of your songs, there's the songs that your signature songs and the ones that people cite as like, these are, again, for the greatest hits, right? But of them, which is the one or the few songs that you feel are like, these represent me? I guess it's tough because it's 50 plus years of music. So you were different people when you committed that version in the studio, and it's like a memory. I don't know how memory works, but I read and heard that when you have a memory and you revisit it, it's already changed because you're a different person to when it happened. So you get older, you revisit, go.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I guess in 2025, if you were to look back at like a song, and it doesn't have to be a song that people maybe know, or maybe it's something that you hadn't released.
Yeah, I mean,
there must be so many songs you're like, we should include this on the album, and they're like, no, we know better, Brother Noland.
No, really. I mean, if you're asking me to choose a couple, none of them would be the ones that are the hits. That wasn't even the ones I was thinking of. I was hoping it would be this one.
So when Coconut Girl, for example, when that broke through and you're like, oh, that's cool, because then maybe this other cut on the album will get, be in the wake of it.
That is exactly what happened with Coconut Girl. So that was when we had
B-side.
45s.
Yeah.
Right? So
hey, that's why maybe.
And the flip side was a song I wrote for my first daughter called Little Lullaby. Yeah, Little Lullaby. And we thought, because Don Ho came up to me and he told me, I heard the flip side of your single. And I really love that song. I think I'm going to record it. And I was thinking, that. And he ended up not recording it, but for, I don't know, some reason. Recorded by a couple of artists. I was kind of sort of like in a Jimmy Buffett mode, kind of like. And I thought that was like, for sure, just the lyrics and the feeling of the song and everything. But it ended up being Coconut Girl. So everything just went. And that might have been because of Kamasami Kong.
Oh, yeah.
Coconut Girl. And he had such an impact on radio. And he that's why I always credit him. Like, he's the one that heard Coconut Girl first and just made it. But that would be one of them, Little Lullaby. And we're actually doing a couple of them in the show at Blue Note on the 6th and the 7th. One of them is Harbor Town. Harbor Town. It didn't make the greatest hits, but I don't think everybody even like, I remember this being a hit. But like you said, they said put this on.
Yeah.
I said, I was thinking maybe this one, Harbor Town would be one, and we're playing that one too now because all the guys around me for so many years say, hey, that's the song.
Yeah.
And then there's one more called The Us Solution. Only if you're a fan of mine, a real cult one, then you would know about that particular song. But I thought, when I write songs, I'm really thoughtful about everything, even the lyrics, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I thought the lyrics on there with the kind of music that's behind it fit. That's why you sign to a publishing company, right? So now I'm with one in LA, right? And they're pretty big and global. So hopefully they can take some of these songs and chop and chop, and get those going. But those are like a couple of examples. But it's funny because, none of the big hits is the ones that I personally wasn't even thinking of.
I overextended my time, and I don't care. But this was cool. I'm going to end it. I'm going to stop it now. But when you mentioned